Okay, hello everyone, my name is Axel Pettersson. I'm from Gothenburg Fencing School in Sweden. I haven't been to Austria since I was a small kid, so but the schnitzels were exactly as big as I remember. Yeah. It's also the first time I'm at the Dreynschlag event, so I'm very happy to be here. I'm having a lot of fun. So thanks a lot to Dreynschlag. Safety things first. You want as much sparring equipment as you have. We're going to do sparring exercises. If you don't have much equipment, pick a sparring partner that you are comfortable with, so that you can adapt the level of your fighting to whatever you're wearing and whoever you're fighting. You don't have to use a longsword, that's not relevant actually, but make sure that you're using weapons that is agreed, be okay from both you and your partner. Also, safety first. This is not at all about intensity, and it's definitely not about winning. This class is anti-winning in a sense. So always have a safety mind. You don't need to ask my permission to stop fighting, you don't need to ask my permission to take a break. If you feel the need to go get some water, that's fine. As long as you approach when I call you up. So take care of yourself, that's the most important thing. In this class, we will learn how to use sparring as a teaching and training tool. I'm probably not the only one who thinks that sparring is maybe the most fun thing there is. It's the actual fencing. That's what we always try to do. And that's how it should be. I mean, we love to fence. We can't just, once we have studied and interpreted, then we need to try to apply it. Sparring is the perfect set. It's a good way to test your interpretation under pressure. And somehow you have to do it. It's not a life and death situation, but it's what we have. At least it's one part of the whole complete package. Sparring is also a way to learn new things, because you end up in situations that it can be hard to simulate in a drill, where sparring is more of free context, so it helps you to improvise. It also helps you to put your fencing into context. Some people have very low arousal level and they are completely calm at all times. For them that's never a problem, but for me and many others, we feel a certain amount of stress whenever we fight, even if it's a sparring or competition. So it's also stress testing for you. If you are nervous when you just spar with a friend, imagine what it would be like to fight for life and death in front of your whole family and clan in the 15th century, where your life and also their wealth and reputation is at stake. It's something that we can learn, definitely. But there are also a lot of problems with sparring. I think one of the most common ones is that we get so accustomed to sparring that we don't take it seriously. We start accepting non-martial behaviors, like double hits, typical thing. And we just keep on doing it because we don't have the proper mindset for it. So we just like play instead of trying to take sparring and see it as a drill, just like any other drill that we've done previously during class. Most of us, we discuss the interpretation for a few minutes after warm-up, then we practice that technique, maybe apply it as a setting, then we spar at the end. And that's usually without any sort of context. But you should apply sparring as just another drill. That's how I think you should see it. And that means putting restrictions around it and having pretty clear focus and clear goals. Another huge problem with sparring is that you want to win rather than just see yourself as developing. This is a big problem. And that's actually one of the reasons why I enjoy the tournaments, because then I can tell my students that they can go and try to win in a tournament, but as soon as they come to class and they spar, if I see them with ego, they get a shouting to. So this is us dropping all ego, putting it on the floor for the coming 2 hours. Another problem with sparring also is that you are too relaxed, like you don't care, you're thinking about what you're going to do after class, and you're tired, you want to go take a shower. So you're not focused. And I think the reason that this happens a lot is that we don't have proper focus and we don't have a proper context for the sparring. So when the class is almost over, you go to a friend and say you want to spar a little bit, and then you haven't decided for how long, you haven't decided for what purpose, and under what settings. So it becomes very flexible and unfocused, and then you just stop whenever you're tired, and it kind of peters out, and you end up sitting in the corner talking about something else. In that case, it helps both as an instructor, but also just as a student to decide that you want to fence with me. Let's fence for 5 exchanges. I will try to do this, and I would like to, for you, it would be nice if you can try this, because that's what I need to practice. And then you have a clear goal, and you maintain focus all throughout the bout. So, my English is not my first language, so if you don't understand what I'm saying, or if I'm speaking too fast, just let me know. Everybody here speaks English, yeah? If you need to interpret. So the goal with the workshop today is to use sparring as a tool to develop your students, if you're an instructor, but also as a way to develop yourself and your training partner, if you're just a student. We will take a look at different ways to analyze your friends and your own sparring behavior. And we will learn a few ways to give feedback that your friend and yourself can take to heart and actually learn from. So we'll try to do it in different ways. Also, we'll try to spot flaws and try to correct them as we fight. The setup is pretty simple. We will divide up in groups of 3, or if there's uneven numbers, we divide up in groups of 4. We will stay in the same group for the entire class. Then, it's not my call. Then we will fight. I will call out the time always, so you listen to my voice command. When I shout out fight, you fight. When I shout out stop, you stop. And when I say call in, we gather up for discussion. 2 of you will fight, and the third, or if there are 2 others, will observe, and they will be the coaches. So they will observe the specific things we're talking about, and they will give feedback and change the setting of the sparring to help their friend to develop as fighters. So this is the general setup. So you will always be either a fighter or a coach. You will never just be on the side, which is also a problem with sparring, that if the floor is full, you sit and you do nothing valuable. If you're not fighting in class, you should help your fellow students to improve by observing them and giving them tips. So that's the general setup, and then we will go through that in various different ways. I'm not a trained sports coach at all, so a professional will probably do this much better. But I think from what I've read and from my experience, the most important thing, or a way to concretely put this into a simple context, coaching and sparring is in general about being able to spot patterns and then break patterns. So we all use patterns in a way, and it's on every level. You know, we have a few things that we are very comfortable with doing, and we try to apply them even when they're not maybe the preferred or the best option to apply, because that's just how we are. We have a pretty limited toolbox that we try to enhance all the time by learning new techniques and so, but we always tend to fall back on them. Also, your opponent will have similar patterns, and as a fighter, the best way to defeat your opponent is to be able to spot those patterns, and then knowing what you have to do to break those patterns. And what you have to do, it's easy, that's in the manuals, you can just read them, but it takes some time to apply. Okay, you can now just pick your partners, divide up in groups of 3 or 4, but stay here please, just so you know who you are. Also, if you don't have your sparring gear, put your sparring gear on and then come back. There are quite a few of us, so we have to spread out this when I'm done talking. If you don't have enough space, it's perfectly fine for you to house our friends on the sides. They will just have to accept that, but I think we should have enough. Also see this is an exercise in peripheral vision. I'll try to hit the other curve. Okay, first exercise is the most simple one. We divide up in groups. You choose who are starting to fight. It's 2 of you. And then the third is a coach. You fight for 2 minutes. When I call time, you start to fight. When I call break, you stop. When I call break, the coach has 1 minute to give feedback to one of the fighters. So the coach picks one. And that's 1 round. After that, we rotate, so the coach steps up, one of the fighters steps down and becomes the coach. He picks the other fighter to observe and to try to give feedback. And then we make sure that you all fight everyone in the group. So you get at least 2 bouts. Do we have a group of 4?
Yes.
Okay, then you also going to get 2 bouts. You just want to make sure you get 2. And in the case of 4, then you have 2 coaches and 1 observes each. Yes, you're smart people, you know this. That's it. Just any type of feedback. I'll just give you a few simple ideas for things you can look for. The first obvious one, of course, is who is hitting who. The next question becomes then why. And that's when it gets difficult, because there are a lot of variables that you have to take into account. One easy thing to look for is who is initiating the attack. Is there one person who's always starting the engagement? And if so, is that a good idea? In that case, maybe your friend needs to also start to engage. Or maybe the other person, your student is always engaging, but is actually being lured into a trap every single time when the opponent counterstrikes. That's a pattern, right? It happens every single time. Another thing to look for is who is moving, and if so, is one of them controlling the movement. A lot of times it's easy to think that the one who's moving forward is also the one controlling who has the forward, who has the initiative, but as I said earlier, it could just as well be a trap set up by the other one because he's luring you back so that he can counter. So movement, another one, is the movement always with single step, or are they using passing steps? Are they trying to move to the sides as well, or are they just being linear? How long are the sequences? Is it just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 every single time? And how do the sequences unfold? Are they trying to set, or your students trying to set things up with several different strikes, or are they trying to land the strike every single time? Because if you see your student doing the same thing over and over again, there's a pattern, and that, they need to break that pattern because it can't be right every single time. I very much doubt. We'll see. This is another very common problem, that your student uses the same technique over and over again, even though it's not the proper response. I mean, I think we've all had, at least in the beginning of my fencing career, whatever my opponent did, I went to left hanger, and then I did a left overhand with my longsword, because that was the only movement that I felt really comfortable with. But obviously, that is not the master key to all solutions. We have 17 Hauptstücke in the German tradition, plus many, many more techniques. We have several other techniques in the Italian tradition, so there are different options for every different situation. And if your student is using the same technique over and over again, then he's not using the proper technique as the proper response. He should do something else. That's a lot of things. The most, of course, in general, is just about, is your student getting hit or hitting, and if so, why? And as a coach, it's easier for you to see, because you're on the outside and you're relaxed. But you can also do this just in pairs, when you are observing your friend, and you are throwing different things at him, and trying to see and then explain. And of course, the end result should be that you yourself can do this analyzing about yourself as you're fighting. But it definitely helps with a coach. Any questions so far? 2 minutes fighting, the coach observes one fighter. When I call break, the coach has about 1 more minute to give feedback on all of these general things. Then I will call out 20 seconds and then you get ready for the next bout. And you move through so everybody gets 2 fights. Any questions on that? Okay, very good. Spread out. Decide who's doing. No? We split. Okay, then 2 of you will now receive 1 Hungarian gentleman each. Because you only okay. So you just pick a group each and you'll be 4.
Okay.
Feeling okay? Okay, make sure you get some water. Okay, so how was that? Dreynsch, when you were coach, did you see something?
Yes, there was, for example, Csaba, who has this thrusting movement with one hand, and he likes it doing, and he does it very well, because if the opponent moves a little bit backwards and he cannot retain, then moves the thrust, or when he strikes to 4, but the hands are always in the front, then he gives the thrust, and the opponent cannot reach him.
Okay.
So, for example, that was a good movement from Csaba.
And when you were being coached, did you get some feedback?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. Did you get some feedback when you were being coached?
Yeah.
Which one? When you were being coached?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what your coach said?
Yeah. He mentioned that my steps are too close, not far enough, not a real step, only a half step if I'm engaging. And then the grappling things wasn't as good as it could be, because my opponent was a little bit taller and a little bit stronger than I, and he controlled me the whole time, and I've done it. So.
Do you agree? What was the coach right?
Yes, the mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you? What did your coach tell you?
Coach Albert, he has a very long sword. He is so really strong in run, and he attacks close for middle, cover catch. But sometimes he's a double hit. If you could move by the sides, it could be best cover touch.
Christian, when you were coaching, what did you see?
Lea overused the cut. She stabbed Arto a couple of times in the face, but didn't do that. She could have done it more. That was the main. And sometimes getting freezed out when Arto actually applied pressure. Arto came.
Do you agree?
Yes.
And what kind of feedback did you get?
I work too much in it now.
Is it true? Okay, so there are different ways of giving feedback. Once again, this is just my completely amateur way of thinking about it. But you can get feedback in 4 ways. Spiritual or mental, which is you're doing good or you're doing bad, and technical, which is, and then you can also, both of those you can do positively or negatively, so that we have a 4 square. For example, mentally is you're doing good and then you're doing bad, and technically is you should do this or it's you don't do that. In my experience, most people react better to the positive, wherever it's, no matter if it's technical or mental. Because if you say don't do that, then you're also leaving to your student to figure out what to do instead. So, it completely depends on the level, and also on the type of communication that you can have between yourself and the student that you're watching. One other problem that it's very easy is that you observe someone when they fight, and of course they're doing a lot of things bad, because we're just one of the first generations to even study these manuals, and all of us kind of suck. But our grandchildren are supposed to be great. We are the guinea pigs. So it's easy to find flaws, and you can say, well, you're only cutting from the left side, you're cutting too low, you are, you don't have enough reach, and it's too much information. Instead, you can say all of those things can be solved by saying you should also make a passing step, because then you can come from both sides. If you have more reach, you can hunt. So it's important to try to narrow down the feedback that you give to what you consider to be the key things. And in this setting, it's also short term, because we're trying to fix things now. If you're back in your home club, you can try to think long term and see what can you change in the coming 6 months. But right now, we're in here now. Yes, Aldo.
You've talked about positive and negative feedback, but you're not doing this, or you could do this.
Yeah.
What about stating things that are going well?
Yeah, that's also
positive feedback that works really well.
Yeah, I would say that's positive, definitely.
You didn't include it because saying you could do this is giving you a positive good option. But how much do you think you should state this is you're not doing this, which is negative feedback, but functional sometimes, or you are doing this? Attention should you pay to it?
Yeah, I think it's very important, because that's a very, very good point. Because it's very hard to also know what you're doing well unless someone points it out. In the middle of the combat, you're not always have the overarching view to see what you're doing, and someone needs to tell you also. That's a very good point. That should also be heard, definitely. But eventually, that's going to take you forward. So we will try to work on that now. We will do the same exercise, but we will only fight for 1 minute, and then we'll take a short break. And me as a coach, in the first minute, I will look for one thing that I want to change for my student. And in the break, I will take him aside, and I will tell him what I want to see changed. I don't want the other guy to hear it, because even though he's a good guy, he might just subconsciously try to play him. I will take him aside, and then I'll tell him, okay, this time I want you to attack thrusting, because this will solve this or that problem. But this time, as soon as he attacks, I want you to move to the side, because you're always too linear. And it can be absolutely anything you observe in the first minute. And then you go back after that 30-second, 1 minute of coaching, and you will hear me calling out, so you know exactly when to do what. And then they will fight for another minute, and then you can evaluate if there was a change, if you like. The other way, you have 2 ways of doing it. One is to take the person to decide that you want to see a change in behavior. But the other thing that you can choose to do is take the other person to decide and tell him that Arto really needs to work on this and that, so I want you to always give him left one times, because that's what he needs to practice. So you are setting up a situation within the sparring, and of course then he can. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that sparring should be like drilling. You should have purpose. Otherwise it flows and it can be hard to get something valuable. So as a coach, you have 2 options. Either you talk to the guy who you want to see changes with, or you talk to the other person and he will help you set up a specific situation. You fight for 1 minute, and you take that break, and then you fight for another minute, and then you evaluate. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, let's spread out. Wait for my voice. Okay, if you're not part of the class, keep your voice down, please. So when you were being coached, what objective did your coach give you?
I wasn't coached. I have nicht gecoacht.
I
I was only reacting on those which were saying to the other opponent. Yes.
Okay.
But it was useful afterwards to speak with the coach. She could tell us what could change. Change during the fight, and also the question what we recognized.
Okay.
That's what's interesting then to hear what he said to the opponent and what we did afterwards, and how I reacted.
And did you see a change?
Yeah. In the first minute was they were both were very offensive. They were just hitting and attacking at the same time, and just hitting and getting many doubles. And I told him to be more defensive, and he also always took his right. Well, he took one hand and he punched instead of grabbing the opponent's swords. That was another point. And in the second minute, when he was in defense, when he was defensive, it was ruhiger, it was calmer, it was more calm. And the techniques and the attacks and the fights were more, they were nicer.
Oh, that's good. And Gord, did you do some coaching?
I did do some coaching in Michel. He has a tendency to not react to the opponent, but just strikes in the middle and just keep his point there. So even if he makes an attack, just he strikes to the middle. We try to solve that by giving the opponent the assignment to just go for the head and forcing him to make a good verzetze before he goes into an attack or a parry on it. So, and I think that changed in the second bout.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So you used the version where you gave the opponent an objective.
Yes.
Instead.
Yeah.
That's good. That's very common, and a lot of times if you're just the two of you, that's what you have. That's what you will have to use, because you're the coach and you're also the guy giving the situation. It's also an interesting thing to try to provoke a situation from the opponent, because you want to train something specific. I mean, I'm the instructor, so I don't have anyone coaching me. I've tried to get my students to, but I can't. So whenever I get the chance to free fence, I try to make certain things, because I know I need to practice on my right flute absence. And then I try to provoke them to attack this side, to gain just the opportunity to train. And that's had the extra benefit of the fact that I'm learning how to set up the situation that I want. So there are other benefits as well. Did you do some coaching?
Yeah.
And what did you find?
I found that he was too weak in the bind, because he was stronger in the bind, and was more good. And so I told him not to let him bind, try to crash in or go to the side, and don't leave the sword in the bind.
And there was a change?
Yeah, there was a change, and yeah, there was a change, and I think it worked.
That's pretty impressive that you managed to get results so quickly. One really important thing that you notice when you do these things is that you need to find the proper language to convey the information that you want to convey. And that is easy because they're already there in the manuals, which may, but it shows how important it is to have a theory of fencing and a terminology of fencing. Because if you can say that, well, you need to work on the Oberlauf, then everybody knows if they study the German. Otherwise, it's hard to say, well, you need to move your feet back and then you need to cut above while he's cutting. It's too many words. But if you study the manuscripts a lot, you will have a thorough understanding of these terms. And if your friends also do that, it's so much easier to communicate sometimes. It really, really helps. So in the class, if you're an instructor, you should never be the only one to read the manuals. I mean, reading the manuals should be incorporated for your students as well. Read straight out of the book in every class, whatever you're practicing now. Not only because that's who we are, it's our identity as historical fencers, but also it's just that the practical benefits are immense. You can't fake it. It doesn't work. We will see now how we work with some coaching a little bit under stress. Basically, maybe you can say there are 3 different ways of coaching. You can fight and then give general advice after the bout. That's what we did the first time. And then you can give advice and then try them out immediately afterwards, which is what we did now, this exercise. In this third exercise, we're going to use voice command. So you're going to affect the behavior of your student in mid-bout. So we're going to do the same thing with 2 rounds of 1 minute. I'm going to observe my student, and then I'm going to find something I want to change, and it's going to be an active thing this time. Then I'm going to take you to the side, and I'm going to say, you go up and fight next round. And it's on my voice command, when I say, go, 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 or, you know, raus, raus, schnell, whatever you use, forza, forza, then you have to attack, wait, do 2 sparrings. Or whenever you hear my voice command, you have to step to the side. When you hear my voice command, you have to, I think you get the point. And then he has to react immediately. This is a way of teaching you, of course, as a coach, but also to teach your student how to instantly spot, react on stimuli. I mean, when you just fence, it's whenever you see the opening that you want, but it works in the same way. 2 problems with this that you will have to work on. You will probably always call out too late. Then it really sucks, but it builds trust after a while. But as a coach, then you have to counter this problem, right? So that means that you will have to try to predict what's going to happen. And this really teaches you how to observe fencing and try to predict these patterns that you see, so that you can shout go even before the situation appears. Because you know that, okay, this is the 3rd time it happened. I know that when he steps this way, he's coming in. So I'm shouting go now so that he can do whatever I told him to do. I think you understand. The second part is that you really need to shout louder, because it's hard to hear in the mask, and they have their adrenaline up, a little bit stressed. So, shout louder than you think. I think this is a really nice exercise also, because it takes the student out of their comfort zone. They perform the techniques that they are comfortable with doing, but that's usually not always the proper techniques to use. I don't think any of us can apply our entire chosen system under stress at all times. So we need to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, and it's hard to do that yourself. It takes a lot of mental strength. But if you have a coach with you who can force you to do the stuff that you're uncomfortable with, the first time you get hit in the head, the second time also, maybe even the third, but then the 4th time you nail it. And then you have expanded your comfort zone. You have a new technique you can take into your toolbox, and then out on the street, in the duel for life or death, then you can apply this technique, and now you'll become a better fencer. You understand the art. So it's the same setup as last time. You fight for 1 minute, and then you, as the coach, take the student to the side and say, when I shout go, 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 you do this. And then the other minute, they fight again, and during that minute, the second round, whenever you feel as a coach that it's proper time, you shout go, 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 and then see if your student responds to that. Any questions? No? Cool.
We have a group of 2 now. Is there a group of 4 who want to share one with us?
I asked 2 is the same.
Are you also 2? Yeah.
Oh, great.
Tell us.
This actually encouraged me to take more initiative. Basically just advance more to push the opponent more so the attack happens more under light conditions, not so much under this. I rediscovered some of the stances again that I forgot to use.
Arthur, you told me that when the other person was being coached, that also worked as a training thing for you. Can you tell us?
Leah told me to, on a command, to make Unterhoud, and I don't use it as often as Overhoud Zerkhoud, so it was a good thing for me because it meant that she had spotted an opening that I missed. And now, instead of waiting for the voice command, I was trying to figure out the opening to anticipate the voice command. So a few times I struck, and then Leah called out. I was like, oh, she's going to call out probably about this opening. Thus I did it. So I wasn't just waiting, but it made me aware of something, so I could anticipate that specific moment.
That's great.
And yeah, that worked really well. And after we got aware of it, it happened in the other bouts as well. So both Kristen and Leah went probably now. I went before the call.
Alan, how was your experience?
Interesting. I was told to go into Ringen, and I'm rather small, so Ringen doesn't work very well for me. So sometimes it worked, but most of the times I just tried doing one strike, springen in, and then Ringen, which didn't work out so well. So I should have done more than one attack to get in, and then go into Ringen.
And how was it to obey the command when someone told you to shout?
Interesting. It was a good experience. Yeah.
How was it to be the coach who's shouting out? How did that work for you?
Too late. I was like 4 out of 5 times I was a split second too late with it.
It takes time. This is a pretty difficult exercise. I think so too. But
The effect was like I was giving the other person the command what to do.
yeah, but it works both ways like that. I mean, if you want to make a challenge for your student, if you want him to himself figure out what to do, just give the voice command to the other person to make a specific thing, and then your student has to realize what is going on. Oh, okay, it's making me thrust. I should do the proper response with an absence. Counter thrust.
Just one thing, when you coach voice command, would you look at both of the people fighting, or would you just focus on basically on the opponent that the guy you're coaching is fighting, so you can see, okay, here's going to be an opening to go, or do you look at it as a whole fight?
I don't know. For me, it's easiest because I'm kind of dumb. So for me, it's easiest to just focus on one thing. But if you know them, and you probably know, it's easier if you train with the guys in your club. Then you can spot immediately what's going on. Then you can.
But actually, for me, when I was coaching art, I was just looking at Christian and said, okay, opening, okay, and then I started. I didn't even look what Art was doing, so I wasn't sure if he was in the proper position to do it. And like, okay, when he opens up, I'm just gonna yell. So I can miss it.
I've never thought about that. Now I'll probably try to take both things into account because it also depends on where Arto is and what he's doing. But probably the effect. Absolutely. I have to try it. Okay. Any other experience? How was it for you?
One problem was this when they give a command that okay, do it now. After 2-3 times, the opponent know what is coming. So. Sometimes Ferry did that, okay, I did the command, and he did something else. That was the original. And this was a surprise for Chubby. So, and this way it worked that not always. To answer the question, I always watch both fencers. So I didn't give a command until I don't see that this is the moment when it can do my fencer the action what I would like to see.
Yeah, but there is a problem that then it's more information you have to take in. So sometimes I try to guess the distance, watch the weapons, and watch for the correct.
And legs. Where are the legs?
It's hard to get results immediately like this. Maybe the important thing is to make them at least aware of how they should do to initiate that type of attack. Yeah. And then we can continue to practice on their own. But it's an interesting thing that you say that eventually the other guy figures it out, and then comes the question of being a good training partner. Because as a training partner, sometimes you should respond in advance because you want the other guy to learn something. But as we said in the beginning of the class, this is never about the winning. Yeah. Winning in itself is kind of pointless, in my opinion. Going back to what we said earlier about all of us being students, which is not just a way for us to behave properly, but it's also the best way to always increase your skill. If you think that you know it all because you can beat some guys up, then also your improvement curve fades out immediately because you're not interested in learning anything else. You just keep on doing the same 2 or 3 things. And in any kind of martial art or an activity, whatever it can be, you should always have the perspective of the student. Even if you're fencing a beginner, you should then try to work on something, try to learn something, so you always have training abilities. If you shut that off, you're just wasting your time. And once again, especially for us who do historical fencing, because we are all students, in respect to the old masters, that's the perspective we should always have. They know something we don't. And that will forever be so, because we're fighting for real. So always being the student. And that also means being a good partner to the other fencers. Fencing, the activity itself is individual, of course. It's you and then it's your own. But increasing a skill level is always a collective effort. And we all know you can't train without a training partner. The Pell will only take you so far. Eventually you will have to become friends with someone else. And if you're an asshole, he will stop to train with you. So even if you're a very egoistic person, it's in your own interest to be a very good friend. And this is actually where things like chivalry and honor and respect and comradeship, brother and sister, it's not just words from those days. It's eternal concepts that we can always use to, whatever it is that we're doing. You build this strong bond between each other, and then you will try to make them better. In return, they will always make you better. We will try to do some of that now, because now we're going to try to apply constant feedback in sort of a bouting setting. So we have 6 groups, right? I think. Kind of. At least we'll divide up. We now have 3 playing fields. One right there, one right here, and one over there. You divide up in 2 groups on each side. Let's start out in teams of 3 on each side, now we can spread out the rest. And then you'll face one another in 2 1-minute rounds. So it's like a fencing bout. Non-judge, so we'll do by the honor system. You know, you fence, you go in, you make the hit, you step out, and you start over again. No one's going to referee you or anything like that. And then you pick one coach from your side. And that person is going to coach you during the bout. So this is more difficult because now the stress level increases because all of a sudden you think it's like, oh no, people are watching us. They'll see the audience. So now it'll be a little bit more difficult now. And this is, now you take everything into account. You only pick one coach, even though there are other people on the side. Take one person, so you only have one voice that you have to listen to. It's confusing to hear 3 voices. Take one. Of course, everyone can give advice, but if Core is the picked coach, he's the one who then have the conversation with the fencer. We're done.
Axel, the best exercise.
Yeah? Yeah, it's nice. That last one was so great. I love the fence. That was great to see. It's different now when you do the last thing, yeah?
I think you have to advise the audience at the tournament.
Yeah. Well, there's also safety issues. Of course, might not hear the referee. And personally, I like more like the tennis approach. It's more dignified. But the whole idea of the coaching changes. Like in this last bout, before the previous 2 ones, because first of all you don't really hear. So the 30-second break is very, very important. But if you have a fencer, and it's hard to know, I mean, some fencers perform best with higher arousal levels, and some perform best with lower arousal levels. And you need to know this as an instructor or fellow student. And if they're under stress, some might just not care. But if they're under stress because of the audience and because of all this, then of course focus switches maybe from technical to psychological. You need to calm them down. How do you do that in a proper way? Well, it's easier if they don't love you as an instructor. They feel comfortable. So once again, you have the comradeship, how important it is. But it looked really good. If you do a competitive bout, they turn around every time and then you can give some feedback during that time. That doesn't really happen now, but I still think I heard a lot of things and you got better and better as during these 3 bouts. Because the first bout was very, very quiet. And then the second bout, you started to talk during the bout, like you were actually leading them as they were fencing. Like, this is good, yes, keep doing that, that's perfect. Christian did that very well. And the last bout, okay, I didn't hear anything, but I assume that you did a good job. But it's difficult. Okay, so how was that? How was it when you were fighting? Did you get anything from the coach?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah?
Because my opponent wanted stuff, and they told me to make their own better, and just cover the right time.
And when you were, did you do any coaching from the side? No, okay. Did you do any coaching from the side? No? Did you? Did they hear you? Did you manage?
Yeah, that was the last part, but I think loud voice is no problem for me.
Yeah, okay. How did it work? Did you get them to do what you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was mostly good. Yeah, the first time I was a little late with them, but then I recognized that I should. I looked at the opponent, only at him, and then I figured out when he is doing the one-handed stuff, and then I told him to stay a little bit wider, and then does it all the time, and then it works.
Perfect, that's good. And you won the belt, yes. And how was it for you? Were you coached?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Quite good.
Quite good?
Yeah, because I tend to go always on a straight line. It is one of the things I have. Then he's close and lines to you. Since he's close, he's using the distance. Move aside, sometimes move to the side, and sees that part of the line of attack, and block it.
And did you also coach Derek first?
Yeah, I coach him. And I think it went okay. No, it went okay because he was basically during his distance with left, she is very aggressive and she tends to attack all the time. She's very, 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 very aggressive. And of course, since he's taller, he was taking that into his own benefit. So then I told him to stay more relaxed, and then he has to come to her. So his vision is in a way missed. So he can work at it.
I don't know if you did it, but I know that Christian does a good thing when he's fencing. Then he asks his coach for information, specific things, and then he makes up his own mind because he's just that good. That's also a possibility. You ask because you have your own plan when you're fencing, and then the coach is just your extra pair of eyes. And that means that even if you're sparring but you don't have the best fencer around you, anyone can really help you. It's an extra brain, an extra pair of eyes. And you can ask your coach for specific things, like, can you please watch where I get hit and tell me, then I'll work it out myself. Or can you please just remind me to move because I forget. And then you have that covered, you can move on. And yeah, I mean, it's cheating if you wish, because it's just your fencing. But we're all students, that's the whole point. We just want to get better. The whole reason why we have tournaments in the first place is to have a stress test of what we actually do. It's imperfect, for sure. I mean, it's sportification, but it gives us something. So always try to get better, always learn. That's the real drug, when you nail that technique that no one has seen for 500 years. That's good. Did anyone, who fought in the last bout? You? How was that? Christian?
Pretty normal.
Pretty normal.
I just tunnel mode every time there's noise, so I can concentrate on it.
You didn't hear anything from the coach?
No, I couldn't probably because of the shouting. It's even if it was silent, if I actually concentrate, I never hear what they say, unless I go to the corner and then they talk to me. I have bad hearing and then I concentrate only on one thing, so I have to be open.
Who else fought the last? You did? Yeah, do you like it?
Yeah. I thought he was nice to me.
That was kind of. Eventually, if you get a good relationship with the training partners, you can really control them. Like maybe sort of all this noise, but it's eventually becomes like a computer game, like right? Press A, press B combination. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this class. I have to quit now. It was really nice to see you go through this. If you have any sort of questions, just ask me. If you want to get the class notes, I have one copy right here.
That's a stress test with 5.
Yeah, I mean there are other ways of doing things. Limited target area is a great way of training, for example. We see that even in the Franco-Belgian historical books. They had that for a reason, many different reasons. Maybe one just for better fencing, but I also think it's just a training tool. And you can throw in any type of variables. And if you come up with good stuff, I really want to know. So if you have ideas or suggestions for improvement of this class, please tell me also. Always the students. So once again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it and have a nice rest of the week.